Yeah, talk to us a little bit about your time at Blockbuster and restocking the shelves with movies that no one cares about and all the snacks that no one ever ate, and pestering people with late fees that no one ever paid.
Well, basically, the snacks were a tenth of the price that you charged at the theater, so they sold really well. And were probably the only thing that kept us afloat as long as it did. Because, yeah, like Redbox really is what put us out of business. Like, Netflix wasn't quite as big, but how do you compete with three times the amount of movies for a third of the cost? And Blockbuster's answer was, you don't.
I mean, that's a good point. That's kind of the main thing that I always went to Blockbuster for was the movie plus standing in line and seeing all the snacks and begging my mom for something and knowing I would get at least one thing. Um, and yeah, it was usually like Airheads or one of those uh, popcorn make it yourself at homes. Even though we had microwave popcorn at home anyway, it was still better because it was from Blockbuster. Um,
Yeah. The thing about Blockbuster is like it was a super cool concept, but it just no way no one wanted that over the convenience that like the Redbox started to provide or that streaming would end up providing. And it's just like you had some blockbusters that lingered. Ours shut down in 2009, maybe, yeah, 2009. It was that Christmas.
mhm.
But yeah, it's one of those things where we look back on it fondly. And if you had like a good employee that you were able to talk with and you were looking for recommendations, like this was still fairly early internet. You know, Facebook had come out, YouTube had come out, and Google was already like beating the shit out of ass. So it was just like the internet was starting to form into what we know it to be now, but back then, still the best recommendations were word of mouth. That's why the Oscars were still relevant back then. People would look
Exactly.
for recommendations. And it was a really cool experience. Like it to this day, it's still the best, my favorite job, not the best job, because it
Mhm.
did not pay well. But
Right.
you know, you just went in every day. We were allowed to play any movie that wasn't rated R. Um, so I just got to put movies on and sit and watch it in my downtime. I was basically hired on as a manager because I had management experience for a few months at my first job.
Mhm.
And really, they just needed someone who had management and customer service experience and could watch the store by themselves because there was not enough business to have multiple employees on most days. Like
Eh,
even when I started, it was already going downhill.
I mean, and 2009, I know it was over 10 years ago now, but it doesn't seem that long ago. And yeah, I mean, the internet, well, not necessarily the internet, but social media was starting to get pretty big around that time with Facebook and all that. So yeah, I mean, it
Oh yeah.
makes sense timeline wise. And the CEO, that was the main problem, was not trendy enough. They did not switch Blockbuster into the gaming pads or just like a cool spot to have, drink a coffee or eat some food while a movie's playing in the background. And you could also happen to rent a movie there or just do some type of subscription service that wasn't crazy with the late fees. I mean, there's like a zillion things they could have done at the time to save it or salvage it, but now it's just too far gone and too many people have forgot about it. And not even nostalgia will save it, which is a
And
pity.
it's just yeah, because I mean the whole problem with the business model, like first of all, like it should have instantly been like you have to pay with the credit or debit card, and that card has to be on file just to have that system for late fees because that's how Redbox works, and that's the closest thing we have nowadays. You put in your card, you don't return the movie, you get charged more and more money until you bought it. You know,
Right.
it's a business model. It still works to this day, but even with that, even with a more successful business model, like there's just nothing, there's no way it could have competed with streaming.
Oh yeah.
Nowadays, you get online, you find a recommendation, and while still online, you watch that recommendation. Like, and and when you really think about it, why on earth would you stop what you're doing, get in your car, drive down the road, and maybe you don't get the movie you want any damn way? All that time, work, and effort,
It was a
the money it
gamble.
takes. Yeah,
Right.
and it's just there's no way it could have survived, and no way it can survive. The few places that probably are still left in America, like the last movie store I saw was had to have been at least 5 years ago. It was in a small town, and they rented movies, but they also sold movie merchandise and stickers, and they would sell movies as well. Like
Yeah,
it was
that's they
kind of like
always
what you were
yeah,
describing.
they always do the buybacks at those the kind of stores nowadays. I don't know what they're gonna do with this huge library once they do get everything, because yeah, not too many people are buying it, at least DVDs.
Yeah,
So
and like I said, this was 5 years ago. I'd be shocked if they're still open because yeah, I mean, just this year I tried to buy Possessor, and I waited like probably 2 months before I decided to buy it. I had seen it. I initially gave it like 3.5 stars, something like that, and just thought it was fine. But it was one of those movies that you couldn't shake. Like I thought about it like every single day after I saw it. So then I finally decided, all right, let me go buy this. Well, Walmart had already sold out, and they only had the edited version anyway.
mm,
Best Buy had sold out. So I was just like, well, shit, let me order it off of Amazon. Amazon didn't have any in stock. So I Googled it, and it was like, yeah, they only did one run of the printed physical release. And it's like, with the way things are going nowadays, if they only do one run, it's unlikely that they'll do another run for at least 10 years. Like we see stuff like Arrowhead or Arrow and Shout Factory that'll do like special re-releases,
right.
but it's like for 10 or 20-year anniversaries.
Or if it's
So
in like
I
a
was just like,
collection or something like that, yeah.
exactly. So I was just sitting there thinking, like, wow, I waited 2 months and this lower budget film, I might not even be able to buy it now. It might be something like Red State where it's just out of print and it's $80 for a used copy. And luckily, I did manage to find it. But when I did find it, I had to buy the 4K Blu-ray combo pack for $40 because it was just like, this is the only place I found it. I'm not gonna wait and gamble with that, you know?
Right.
So it's just like we're at a point now where it's like physical media is more of a collector's item than anything.
It really is. I mean, yeah, and we've had conversations before in the past of like physical media versus streaming services, and I feel like that is a whole conversation and topic of its own. But yeah, I mean, personally, I think physical media will make a comeback, and I feel like you have similar feelings. But it is a shame that the ones that do die off or just are very, very limited release and they're not on any streaming services, they end up, being, like you said, Red State is a movie by Kevin Smith, one of his horror flicks, and it's stupid expensive right now on Amazon. You cannot find that anywhere cheap. So, yeah, there's tons of examples like that. So, hopefully, uh, people will start to kind of realize that physical media is the trendy thing to do, to have your own library of the things that you enjoy and not have 5 or 6 subscription services that you have to pay out to every single month and you're not even sure if you're going to like what they're putting out. um, yeah, I think that's just eventually gonna be the way that it goes, and if it does go that way, yeah, we'll be ahead of the game because me and you both have quite a few movies. You especially working at Blockbuster have, I mean, how many movies have you had the chance to get your hands on? I know you have a list on Letterbox, but
Yeah, like when I was at Blockbuster, we got to like hold movies back behind the counter that we were going to buy. We got to stack deals and coupons. I That's probably what made me decide to start collecting in the first place. I was working there, and I would get deals like anywhere from $10 for a brand new movie that went for like 20 at Walmart. And remind anyone, like, these used to be big business. Like, companies used to invest a lot of money into their DVDs with like commentary tracks, deleted and extra scenes. They would, in some cases, they would literally film alternate endings they weren't going to do and finish them just for DVD release. They would create games that you could literally play on the DVDs, like using the remote. Like,
I do
it was a
remember
big
that.
thing.
I do
It
remember
was
that.
like, it was the popular medium at the time. So getting them for half off was a great deal by itself. But then we would have sales, and we could stack coupons onto our employee discount. So I could get movies for like 3 cents. Like, not even exaggerating. There is a time where I bought 30 movies for 3 cents a pop, and it was the worst movies, mind you. These weren't new releases. These were, we took them off the shelf to sell them. They didn't sell at the high price. They dropped in price 4 or 5 times. And it's like, I'm talking like The Grudge 2, epic movie, just really bad stuff that I had never even seen. I was just like, I don't want to waste my free rental on that. But
Yeah.
when it was 3 cents, I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'll buy all these movies and watch them, and if I like them, cool. And yeah, some of those movies I literally just was like, this is so bad, I'm going to rid the world of it, and I just threw it into the woods.
I was gonna
Probably
ask,
didn't help
I
the
mean,
environment too
getting
much,
movies
but
that cheap, right? You just submitted the littering. Getting
yeah.
movies that cheap, did that, I mean, across all blockbusters everywhere, if everybody was doing this, stacking coupons, even as they are shit movies, did that contribute to the downfall of Blockbuster, or was it already like a burning fire
No.
and there was no hope at that point anyway?
There was no hope at that point. Like I said, they hired me. I was 18, only had a few months of management experience because my prior job I couldn't be a manager until I was 18.
Hmm.
But they hired me on because their business was already so bad that it was like, okay, so Monday through Thursday, we have one employee in the morning and one employee at night, and that is it. So they had to have someone who knew how to manage a business, deal with customers, who could count money, lock it up, and do the logs in the book upstairs. And it was just because I had done all that in my previous job, they hired me on, and yeah, it was a great job for when I was at home. Like, I was still living with my mom. It's just like, it's the ultimate job. You just walk into work, you put on movies, you get to watch them while you stand around and talk about movies, and then when you leave, you get free movies to take home. I was just like, yeah, I got no real responsibilities yet. It was just perfect.